Logitech got the looks like we've got some viewers. Can somebody enter a message in the group chat? I see we've got viewers, 5 viewers. Awesome. How do we get this to be a discussion, though? If we're my goal here is to find a way to have something that's interactive. We used to have some software through a company called Blackboard that was great, but that's no longer available to us. And it was great because it had all the camera settings. But it's funny, there aren't really good options for multi-person video chats that I'm aware of. We found some that do up to 10, but and maybe that would work as a start. Certainly, we don't normally have hundreds of people on these, but we've got to get away. So does anyone see this chat message? If you folks are watching, can you look on the side of your screen or click on on the other side of your screen? For me, it's up here. There's a blue box that opens up the group chat. I'd like to figure out how we can do this with either chatting or even if folks could chime in with a microphone, that'd be even better. Doesn't seem like that's going to be an option here with the Google Hangouts. Oh, haha. Okay, I found the chat. Sorry. Okay. Hello. Got it. So I see it now. Great. How many chips could a carbide woodchuck? Well, Peter, glad to see that you're in a better mood. I noticed your Fadal struggles, and I am sorry to hear of that. I'm curious if there's an update on what's going on with your machine, or hopefully some better news perhaps on that. Okay, so this is now abundantly clear that you guys are not going to be able to video or audio talk to me. So 2 things. Number 1, I don't really love that. I'm curious what you guys think, because I feel like that makes me want to find a different platform so that you guys can actually talk, whether it's, again, just microphone or video. But number 2, throw your comments in the chat on YouTube, and we will. I'll respond to them, questions, comments, etc. Peter, I think I can do a screen share though, which is great. That's going to be important. I was going to walk through. So the other nice thing though about doing this on YouTube is that it will save the video. So for folks that weren't able to join live, they can watch this Patreon kind of live chat or conversation later, which is awesome. And if you select who you want to interact with one at a time, so hold on, put user in timeout, report. No, I don't see. Lucid, I'll mention Peter had posted on the NYC CNC forums that he has a relatively old, I think it's a 1999 Fadal VMC, which are, really in many respects great machines. They're incredibly popular, and a lot of folks have done a really good job of keeping them alive and running. And in fact, boy, 3 years ago, I went up to and we did this on YouTube. I went up to an open house in Northern Ohio. There's some guys, I think it's like Mega CNC, but they're like Fadal rebuilders. That's kind of what they do. And it looked like for between $20,000 and $30,000, you could get a small VMC at the time. I didn't have a big shop, so I was thinking, hey, this is a good, inexpensive way. Anyways, Peter life was good. Sounded like he was kind of crushing it. And then And then this is kind of what often happens is when one thing breaks, the world falls apart. So he had a problem with his, he had a problem with that wanted to cause him to want to replace the lead screw. Maybe it was just worn out, had 3 thou or something of backlash. Peter, I hope I'm telling this story from memory correctly. But what happened was when they went to replace it, they ended up introducing new problems that they weren't able to diagnose, and they're now having like major 30 or 40 thousandths of almost tracking error, totally lost positions, which is now means you can't make parts, or you're crashing tooling and so forth. So not only is that annoying and not cool, but he's spent the money bringing in the smart people to help, the service techs that are qualified to do this, and they don't know. And now you've got this situation where you're able to pour potentially more money in the tunes of thousands of dollars into a 1995 machine that's 23 years old. And he had sort of updated us on the situation and asked advice. And I wouldn't put a dime. I hate to say it, but there's too many other things that can go wrong. Fidels are maybe the one machine where it's maybe a possibility, because mechanical and electronic parts tend to be available for them. If it were another brand, you hear stories about even machines from like 2002 where you just can't find, there isn't a single circuit board left for that machine. So if you have an electronics problem, you are literally SOL. And so Peter was also asking about doing a retrofit with new electronics and so forth. And I just wouldn't do that. It's still an old machine. It's not necessarily a quick, easy, and certain process. And here's the thing. I really, really don't like debt, but here's the problem with debt. It's not always one-time debt. It's the fact that once somebody does it once, they think it's okay, and they're well likely to do it again, whether they're getting more into debt or whether they got into debt, got out, and then thought, well, I'll save myself again. So Peter, so it sounds like you're looking toward a Calm Motion, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, $8,000. I take issue with being called plug and play. I just don't think that there's anything plug and play about spending $8,000 on a 23-year-old iron machine. And I'm not an expert on this. I just wouldn't do it. And if you're able to make money off of it, and actually one of the questions that we got on Patreon, and I don't think that fellow is live, although I may not know that, is machine shop ROI. And so basically, if you're able to do reasonably profitable work, the financing and numbers behind a new machine or even a newer used machine aren't that difficult. So DM2, do you mean a Haas DT2 or drill mill 2? I would actually, I much prefer the DT2. Oh, you have a bunch of Cat 40 holding. Okay. You spend about $10,000 more for the Haas DM2 over the DT2, and you don't really get $10,000 in improvements. In fact, the Z-axis column in the machine, oh, he's saying no. I'm sorry. Well, let's see what he says. I would get a DT2 all day long. It's a BT30 system, and you can frankly run the heck out of little tools and smaller stuff on it. They're really nice little machines. They literally made the drill mill version so that folks that have 40 taper tooling can share tooling between them. But I feel like that's the tail wagging the dog, because you're spending $10,000 more just to get continuity of tool holders. Tool holders aren't something that we share all the time across all these types of machines, and they're not that expensive. I mean, a tool holder is $100 to $150. So you're talking about no to DT2 was my comment. Maybe I'm lost. Sorry. I would also consider looking at the tool room mills. Those are a bit less expensive. They're not quite as sexy or fast, but they're just not that expensive. A good source of inspiration was Jay Pearson. Jay Pearson had a TM3. That's a full 40 by 20 machine for years. And it's not the sexiest machine. It doesn't have the high RPMs. It's not super speed, but darn it, it made money. He just replaced it with a VF4 SS, but it was one of those good moments for me where I saw it and I was like, man, it's so fun to want to brag about the machine that you've got or buy the sexy thing. But I'll tell you, man, that those TMs rock and roll. What's your opinion on the Tormach ATC? Okay, I will get to that. Yeah, Easton, I know, has really done great with his Miyano, which is great. The difference there might be the fact that I think, Peter, you're in a position as kind of the breadwinner and somebody who wants to really be doing this not only full time, but growing to where it's not appropriate. Here's what I always like to think, because it can be hard to make decisions sometimes. So I have this list of people I keep, and it's everyone from relatives to friends to people I barely know, but I kind of know how they would react. And I think about in my head, just go to a quiet place, close your eyes and say, okay, I'm going to pitch Rob or I'm going to pitch Joe on making an investment or signing off on my decision, and, walk through why you are claiming this is the right decision. And maybe that is, and you're being brutally honest. So you're saying, hey, I know it's a retrofit, but I know I can do it. Or I know it's going into debt, but here's my plan to get out of debt because that's important to me. Or here's why it's worth paying the premium to buy a brand new machine. I can pick the options that I want. They're quickly available from Haas. I don't have to wait, months. And I get that warranty, which is exactly what bit me on my old machine. Go through that process of selling yourself by selling somebody else figuratively. You can actually call the person up as well, but sometimes I don't even find that I don't have to. You literally can just talk through it and kind of refine your selling skills and sell me on it. Peter, you're well in a position, from what I understand, where you could get financing on it. Again, I really don't like that, but I also absolutely don't like this idea of throwing more money at repairs that you aren't certain are going to work. And I don't, again, fully understand and appreciate the retrofit capabilities, but my guess is you're still going to end up with a machine that is relatively limiting compared to what you may be able to get on a new machine that's going to have potentially some pretty cool features that may help you do better parts or may help you have better process reliability. I bought my Doosan lathe brand new, and I don't think I'd ever buy a used machine again. There'll be a new Doosan replacement. Yeah. So it's really funny because I don't think I've ever bought a new vehicle. Actually, we bought my wife a new vehicle, but that was kind of a move to Ohio concession. Most things I would buy used. There are those situations for me. I couldn't get nearly enough of a discount on a used machining center for me to justify going used. And the real ringer was I really cared about the options that I wanted. I wanted the through spindle coolant. I wanted the chip augers. And you get a warranty. You can try to wait for a sale or just drive a hard bargain. But it's a machine that's meant to make profit and make money. It's not a vehicle where its only purpose is to depreciate in value. Your vehicle never appreciates in value. A machine tool never appreciates in value, but the return on its investment, what you earn off of it, should outpace the depreciation. Absolutely should outpace the depreciation. I'm curious. Atman, Tim doesn't like Haas. Well, look, Haas isn't the only machine tool builder out there. We've had a lot of luck and success with Haas, but I'm not a fanboy. Yeah. Yeah, look, the way to not go into debt is to take your time. We actually, this is awesome. I'm going to throw this in the chat. We just published a video. I don't know if we're going to make it public on YouTube. It's not behind a paywall or anything. It's on the NYC CNC website, though. I'm going to post a link here in the chat. But it's a 17-minute video kind of walking through our story in probably more detail than I've ever shared. And you takes time, but you can we started with some money from our day job that helped us buy the Tormach. We didn't really make any money with the TAG, but the TAG in New York City gave me the confidence that I can do this. I love this. It's the right path to bring this talent and capability in-house. Oh, why is that link broken? Come on. Well, go to if you could just go to NYCC here. Let me switch over to a screen share. Sorry, guys. Screen share this page. Okay, you should now be able to see, if you go to the NYCCNC site under business, there's a link to our story. And that first link here has the video behind our story, just kind of sharing how we got to where we are. So the problem with this for some of the folks in the comments here is that it takes time, potentially a lot of time. And I hate this idea of borrowing money just to shortchange that. But I don't know. I've been so rigidly against debt, and I'm also, that's not always the healthy attitude to have. You got to think about when and where might it make sense. Haas controls are the best. The performance of the Doosan. I'm not sure I understand your comment, Royal, on you like the Doosans. See, a 2009 for 44 grand. That's my issue. Are you guys seeing the screen, by the way? Can somebody comment on the? You might be seeing the screen. So let's go look. I hope you can see the screen because I'm going to go to Haas. And I haven't forgot about the Tormach ATC question. So machines, VF, build and price. Oh, I see. Love the performance of a Doosan, control of a Haas. Yeah, we've heard great things about Doosan. I'm getting conflicting chat comments. Somebody says, yep, which I'm hoping means they see. Can somebody actually type out what they see? Say, I see the Haas website. You can get a new Doosan for 60 grand. That's intriguing. So that's kind of what I was looking at. I see the Haas website. Good. So the problem is I'm not configuring this properly, but so this is apples to oranges, which is not a good way to finish this story. But to start the story, this is 56 grand for a base VF2. I got our VF2 SS with some pretty decent options, such as augers and through spindle coolant. And I want to say it was 89 grand. So, but you have to have a significant discount to buy used, simply for the depreciation of a machine, assuming it's in good condition. Then you've got to kind of have the discount for, well, what's the risk that I'm taking? Do I know why it's being sold, where it's coming out of? The extremes being the machine that's being sold because it's worn out versus the shop that your uncle worked at where they're retiring and the machines are in great condition. I think everyone here is probably smart enough to kind of think through those, but don't kid yourself about that. Samsung is the other value sort of line. I don't know if I would buy a Samsung because Doosans are so much more common, but there are, got my quote from Haas, 82K for VF2 SS. Well, Peter, don't buy the SS. Seriously. I mean, I would look at, I'll put it this way. If I had a tool room mill in my shop, I would still keep it as a secondary machine. So maybe you look at getting a quote on a TM2P. I think the P has a tool changer, if I recall, right? I'm just picking a random option. 40 grand, new, 6K spindle, 10, you could even get a 20K. If you can afford the $9,000 retrofit, then you could finance a smaller portion of this and then pay it off relatively quickly. And then you've got a really good second machine for when you outgrow this one. Okay. No, I don't get too hung up in the 6K spindles too slow. First of all, I bet you his current Fidel spindles no more than 7,500K. But again, Jay Pearson, you don't need a super speed spindle. I'm going to switch back to a video. Present. Okay. You don't need a super speed spindle machine unless you have a super speed process. Yeah, it's nice to cut aluminum at 15K or 12K, but yeah. Well, so if you get TSC, agreed, that's a huge benefit. You don't need a probe. They're super nice. But again, you could add one later, I believe. So that's the other way to think about this is get the options at the start that you can't add later. So any software option can be unlocked later. Things like probes can be added. Through spindle coolant usually can't be added. Okay, let me scroll back up before we get too far ahead here. Sorry, guys, 1 second. I'm kind of laughing. I like Tim, @Man Unlimited Tim, but that's your job as an entrepreneur is to go talk to really smart people and get their different opinions, but recognize you still have to make the decision. You do. Let me answer MacGyver's quick question on Tormach ATC add-ons. Have a 770, have a 440. Are they worth the cost? So kind of a different question. Do I like them? Yes. Do I like them for the cost? I don't know, which means kind of a no. Where they can really help you is if you're a one-man band and you're trying to do other things while the machine runs. Absolutely, having an ATC is a life changer there. I think the issue that I bring up and a lot of people bring up is it reliable enough? Here's the thing. It is if you tweak it. So I wish Tormach would have tapered tooling that would increase the reliability of something like an ATC, because if there's any misalignment, it's going to strip that thing out. I don't want to alarm you. We got ours dialed in and we ran like 2,000 tool changes in a row and it worked. They absolutely work. What you need to do, in my opinion, is set a calendar reminder every 2 months to go and check the alignment. And that takes a little bit of time. It's easy to forget or just say, I don't want to do that. And what's frustrating is the consequences can be pretty crummy. If it knocks a tool out, then it can break the tool, damage a vise, damage your table, damage the part. It can be just pretty crummy. That's not a reason, again, not to look at buying them, but they're relatively expensive. They're made in the US, which is great, but that's why they are expensive relative to the Tormach base price. So my opinion would be get a Tormach, make money with it, get smart. And then if you're thinking production and increasing stuff, you could either get multiple Tormachs, which is absolutely, I think there's a lot to be said for that workflow, or step up to a vertical machining center. Carbide tooling does not require 500 surface feet a minute. It can run at that, but if it required 500 surface feet a minute, you could never cut with a 16th inch end mill. Again, I would love more RPMs, but if your goal is to avoid debt, then you've got to compromise here. And I would not at all have a problem. I would rather have more machines, even if they were maybe 6,000 or 7,500 RPM, than I would have one 15K machine. Easton, we don't have the Tormach bandsaw. I don't think they're shipping yet. They look great. We don't process our material anymore, though. We have the vendors do it. I can't. It's a way of outsourcing that work without having to take on the responsibility of training people to really run a bandsaw well, maintaining blades, different blades for different materials. So we get all our material cut for us. I think the Tormach blade is a great thing. I would have bought one if I was still doing some of the work we used to do, especially back in New York, for sure. Yeah, Peter, awesome. Thanks for saying let's move on. But this is awesome. This is the real life. Like, how do you balance this all? I'd love to hear what you end up with. And if you want to hop on the phone, I'm happy to kind of game this out with you, play devil's advocate. It's a big decision. I mean, I have lost a lot of sleep. Now, I've thought long and hard about some big decisions in my life, like buying my first VMC, employment decision. This is like, it's different because this is real. This is life. This is, my gosh, buying my house was the biggest check I've ever written in my life. I guess, yeah, it would be certainly outside of something like your house, which everybody kind of does. So the biggest controversial decision. Yeah. Probes are a waste of money unless you do an unattended machining inspection. Yeah, Heimers work great. We get spoiled with probes, but here's my problem with a probe is, do I really want to think about having a $5,000 to $6,000 probe on every machining center? Let's say I end up with 6 more. I don't plan on that at the moment, but now you've got almost another machine tied up just in probes. If you're doing that kind of work, probing parts, and certainly on 5th axis work or something, it may make a lot of sense. But again, going back to Jay Pearson, he's got, 6 or 7 machines or spindles, and I don't think he has a single probe. And there's a lot to be said for that. Somebody else asked about the value of having the same controller in the shop, and it's unfortunately not possible. And I say this because having the same controller is phenomenal. It's absolutely great. And I value that a lot. And it's difficult to learn the basics of a new controller, and it's really difficult to master a new control. The problem is that I would never compromise on buying the right machine just because it meant that I had to change. In other words, I want to buy the right lathe because it's the right lathe. And part of that's the controller, part of it's the format, the price, the size, the functionality, the support, the service, the warranty. 5th axis is a better example. If and when I buy a 5-axis machine, which I would really, really like to do, I'm not going to let the continuity of a controller drive that. There's maybe a little bit of a benefit. If Haas had the machine that was the right fit for us, then we would look at a UMC, and we are looking at a UMC down the road. But I hear a lot of really, really compelling and good things about some of the other brands, DMG, Matsuura, Hermle. These are all things I can't afford, though, so it's just fun for now. The way I figured it when I bought new machines, that I could buy a truck for the same amount of money. Truck doesn't make me anything. Exactly. Do I have any videos on Fusion 360 mill showing multi-part ops? Yes. I don't want to stop and find those right now. Royal Arms, shoot me an email, and I'll point you to that. Although you just made a really good point that I'm going to write down, which is I should create a page on the NYC site for all focus on multi-ops stuff, which is patterning, G54, multiple vices, all that kind of stuff. Because we do have videos on it, but it doesn't matter if we have videos if you guys can't find them, which is what is to me like super exciting. I don't know if any of you guys here are actively using the NYC site or whether you've even used it every once in a while, but please use it. I mean, I would welcome feedback. We're spending a lot of time here continuing to build out the quality of the content. I haven't really been promoting it or pushing it because I want to spend some more time just making sure. I want a machinist or an entrepreneur to go there and say, oh my gosh, I wish I had seen this sooner or earlier, or this is such a great resource. I have a customer that's offered to help me get up and running. That's when you get, oh yeah, awesome. That's great, Peter. Phenomenal. Okay, so can you guys, chat works here, or shoot me an email. If anybody doesn't have my email, John at nyccnc.com will make it to my inbox. But I want to, so I don't have a good excuse as to why we did these Patreon live chats, I think in 2016. One of the problems, we're not going to make excuses, was that people would be upset that they couldn't make the time. Having these become watchable sessions that somebody can consume later solves that problem. I don't really like the fact that that we can't talk to each other. Talking on chat is very, it's lagged, and it's difficult for me to read and talk to people. So I guess I'm going to keep looking into options that would let us have more of a dialogue, even if it means one person has to raise their hand, let me activate their mic, and then everyone else can hear us talking back and forth. But I'm actually super excited to see we have 37 viewers on here, which is great. That's actually more than we used to have. And I like just the casual nature of Q&A and so forth. Have people you met in the CNC service tech seem happy with their jobs? What are some things they look out for working for a manufacturer? So I'm not sure I understand the question. What I will say is if you are a skilled, hands-on person, that is a very, very good career to consider right now. I know for a fact that Haas, DMG, Matsuura are all actively looking for good field service techs. Now, it's not the perfect job. You're probably going to have to travel. You may not get paid a lot starting out, but let me tell you something. In the long run, you are writing your own meal ticket because the people that have good service techs, you are a key part of that machine tool builders strategy because nobody wants, especially when you get into the smarter buyers and the higher end machines, no one will buy a machine unless they have a good service reputation. So the service guys that are out in the field directly affect sales, which means you are getting taken care of. So Easton, this is a hangout from my end. From the way I start this live chat within YouTube Live, when YouTube Live is still very new, they keep changing things, is I start a hangout, but that's what's so weird is nobody can see the hangout chat. That's what happened at the beginning of this when I was like, where is everybody? I will look up Discord, Easton. It's tough for me to stay on top of all the cool stuff out there. Thank you. That's great. Do go to IMTS if you're just starting. I mean, if you can, yes, IMTS is amazing. It might be a little bit overwhelming. Well, I'm sure we're going to be at IMTS, so a chance to hang out if we do some sort of a meetup and so forth. But don't go if you can't justify it, meaning IMTS hotels tend to be expensive or you've got to stay further away. Don't go if it means you're going to lose the chance to do some revenue generating work. Don't go if you don't have good self-discipline about, if you think you're going to make a mistake on buying a machine too soon. You know what I mean? It'll be cool to go and you can learn a lot, but if you're really just starting out, I would probably focus more on YouTube, learning, making parts, and there's a lot more trade shows. IMTS is by far the best in the US, but there's lots more smaller shows that you could just hop to for a day and walk around with. Blue Jeans is a great meeting platform. Yeah, I definitely don't mind signing up for a paid platform if that lets us have a better conversation. But like I looked at one of them, like GoToMeeting, and I want to say it was like $800 a month for any reasonable bi-directional communication, and that wasn't in the card for what we were doing on the functionality we were looking for. Yeah, Kent, I remember we had that breakfast meeting at IMTS, and was that right when your machine was, had it just come or was it being delivered? You had your VF4. Pretty sure I have some memory of that being around that time frame, which was really cool. Kind of crazy to think we're coming up on 2 years from that. 12:32. I think I'll probably wrap this up. Any other questions? Okay, yeah, Kent had just ordered his machine. That's super cool. If there's so on that note, Peter, this won't really help you right now, but IMTS and end of the year are the two times that I've noticed either Haas or other machine tool builders tend to do like structured sales and publicized discounts. You can always try to haggle, but that's maybe a better time. Yeah. Kent, did you buy that lathe? That's awesome. Congratulations. That's really cool. Well, look, thank you guys. This was super fun. I'm glad we did this. I will do this. I will schedule the May one in a couple weeks. I'll put the date out there. That way folks have a chance to mark it on their calendar. And it's tough to please everybody from a time frame. We've got literally everybody from California to Europe or even Asia. So I can't please everybody, but we'll try to change the timing of these around. That way you can hit some of them, and we'll also schedule them ahead of time so you can do your best to block your calendar and so forth. I'll probably do the next one. Well, let's say we'll do the next one at like 8 or 9 p.m. East Coast time. That'll make it easy for West Coast folks. And if Europe wants to get up early, they could. But we'll do that, and I'll throw that up on Patreon. I'll stick around here for just a few more seconds to see if any comments trickle in. Otherwise, happy Friday, folks. That was the other thing I've been thinking about. This has to be done right, but there are ways to do YouTube Live with like a DSLR out in the shop. And when I say it has to be done right, you actually, from what I found, really want to bring along wired connections with you to the cameras, not use Wi-Fi, really good stable internet. But how cool would that be? Like just to set up a live camera at the machine while we set up some parts, or just like, it's so much. The more we get into producing our videos for YouTube, the more the thought of having just like a live thing, especially for the Patreon crowd, where you guys are part of the kind of family community of, I'm not as worried about somebody trolling us on some silly thing. That sounds like a lot of fun. Troy, no, we definitely have not done anodizing. We have pretty good anodizers here in Ohio. It's relatively inexpensive, and I don't have the ability to handle the chemicals. And we have our plates hard coat anodized. Hard coat anodized, you've got to have refrigeration units to cool the bath, the fluids and liquids in the baths to do the salt temperatures that hard anodizing takes. So no. Do I use Haas Connect? No, we had it installed, but I've never gotten any value out of it. Maybe they've improved it, but it wasn't. But no, I'm not using it. Yeah, the drill is fun. We were running aluminum plates again this morning. Drilling aluminum at 300 inches a minute is cooking. Okay, I'm signing off, folks. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon. Take care. See you soon.